Yes, so my name is Julian R. I am a member of the Sydney Elizabeth Bay debtors business debtors group, and I have been a member of Debtors Anonymous for, I would say, 5 years now. So I'll just get into I guess telling you a bit about myself and my experience of that step, and I'll probably talk a little bit around it too. So uh, I was introduced my recovery. I was introduced into the rooms of Debtors Anonymous after already having been in I think it was, yeah, NA and Marijuana Anonymous, probably for almost 15 years prior. And, obviously I was, came to DA in a lot of distress financially. And it wasn't, yeah, I was just highly distressed. And somehow I heard about this Debtors Anonymous. And so I went, and I was obviously skeptical, but when I heard people sharing, I immediately related, and I immediately thought, yes, this will work because the other rooms have worked and the 12 steps always work. And so I guess I had a good attitude in a way. So it was just a huge relief. And look, I'll get into the step 5 part because that's the focus of my talk. And then I'm just not sure. I'm one of those people was that put off step 4, and would drop sponsors before I got to step 4, and or they would drop me, but generally I would just stop contacting them, and I would do anything to avoid doing step 4, and which made it really hard to do step 5. And I what had changed by the time I got to DA was, I think I had just I can't even say why DA I broke that pattern of just not going through the steps formally with a sponsor. I don't know what it is. But somehow in DA, when someone reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'd like to sponsor you," which is how it happened for me. I think I was sort of I was having I'd had initially, I'd sort of come good. I'd had a little period of a little bit of improvement, and then I had a slip, or I was in a period of distress again. It was, it's a rocky road back financially, and I was in real distress, and this sponsor, oh, she was to be my sponsor, effectively just said, "I'll be your sponsor," without really my asking. And to be honest, I probably would not have asked this person, and that's, but then again, I wasn't really going to ask anyone probably. But anyway, I'm glad she did, because it's not that I wasn't doing the steps. I was doing the steps, and I was actually writing on them, and so I actually had a step 4 all written out neatly and ready to go. And so, but I went through it again with her, and so when it came to step 4, I just had to tune it up a little bit to what I'd already prepared, and I just meet her. We would meet for coffee, and I would just talk through the various categories, and I mean, I'd like to say that there was major miracles that happened out of that process, but there wasn't. And I think for me that was because I'd been going to meetings and and yes, in that part of, and it is a 12 steps group, and I get it that in a sense I've been avoiding the very thing that defines it. But there's that saying that the steps work on you, if you're not working on them, and that had largely happened. And so I guess the most shameful things and those sort of things, I'd heard all the story. I didn't expect to shock this person. There was nothing that shocking even to me, like in this fourth step. It was just, there was some embarrassment, but not, like, I don't know, I'd sort of learned to love myself over time, through going to the rooms. And so, I had empathy on board about myself. And so it was nice. I'd say one thing that came out of the fourth, which did actually change my how I was, like, or how I responded in certain situations, was I discovered that I had a real issue, um, against people that were privileged, like, that I perceived to be privileged. And, you know, which, and all that means for me is just people that went to expensive schools. And, I felt, I don't know, I just had an issue about it. And I know why. It's related to parenting. And my dad left when I was a child, and he went to the best schools, and he went to Harvard, went to Brown, and but he was in America, I was in Australia, and my mother had remarried, and she'd married a guy that, we ended up just growing up so poor, like crazy poor, to Western standards. And um and what I did to compensate that is I worked really hard, like a man. I had a job from when I was 7, and as soon as I was 12, I did men's work. I worked in the local banana plantations, which was considered in that in my North Coast area to be the hardest work there is, like, pretty much.
Mhm.
And that's 8 minutes already. Okay, all
Yes.
right. Anyway, what came out of that was I realized that this was this wound, and it was impacting my interactions, and it was causing me a whole bunch of resentments. And my job is, I'm a corporate lawyer and a company secretary, and I sit on a whole bunch of ASX listed boards. And so I'm surrounded by privileged people that had these backgrounds, and he was like quietly, like, having this, I guess, mental issue about them, and just causing sort of irrational resentments. And once I knew what it was, it just sort of just went away, and it just made my life easier. And that was kind of miraculous. And unfortunately, I can't tell you about how my whole life turned around because of DA, because I've run out of time. But my partner, before I went to one of these, or I spoke at one of the at a conference, my partner said to me, "You tell those people that because you went there, I've had this most incredible time raising my child. I've never had to worry about money for the last few years. Everything has changed, everything is better, and it's only because of the rooms." And so that's my message. And that's probably the end of my share. Thanks.